Blog Talk Radio.
When you're born in this world, you're given a ticket to the freak show.
It's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.
And when you're born in America, you're given a front row seat.
So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents.
Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't.
There is no America. There is no democracy.
You have no choice. You have owners. They own you.
There is only IBM and ITT and AT&T and DuPont, Dow, Union Carbide, and Exxon. Those are the nations of the world today.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Do you know how naive you sound?
Why?
Senators and presidents don't have men killed.
Oh. Who's being naive, Kay?
They got you by the ball.
Well, all right. Yes, indeed, on a Greyhound bus. Hello and welcome to the front row at the Freak Show. I am your host, Crafty, coming to you live, as always, from FEMA Region 1. And joining me shortly, I do believe, will be none other than the Adamizer himself. It is Monday, April 6th, the day after Easter. And we here in the front row, of course, hope that you had a wonderful day celebrating the resurrection of the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I did actually want to give a shout-out to the Texas Changas, a frequent listener, and see him a lot on the in the live chat room. But the Changas reached out privately yesterday and told me to, quote, suck it one time for Christ. So, yeah, thank you, Changas. Really should have done more with that yesterday. You know, maybe hashtag suck it for Christ. I don't know. Hey, there's always next year, right? But before Adamizer joins us, I did want to, excuse me, I did want to say that, and I know the Adamizer is absolutely going to want to have a few words on this, but do not see his mic open yet, so we're still waiting on him. But, you know, I'm going to admit this, that yesterday, outside of dodging family time and the Easter dinner, you want to know how Crafty spent a large portion, well, not a large portion of his day, but a portion of the day. It was actually, you know, I watched, check this out now, I watched Jesus of Nazareth. Oh, yeah, I sure did. Good stuff, too. And, you know, it's funny, and I guess just a tribute to the film industry and Hollywood, I guess, how they can frame and take the portions that they want and really make it into a nice little story. You know, you can see the lure on some levels. And, okay, I need to further profess, I guess, and I think this is why the Changas told me to suck it one time for Christ. But because I had informed him that while I was watching this, I was actually working on a piece that I'm hoping to put together, a little video piece. And I wanted to get it all done yesterday on Easter and put it out there and get it posted on YouTube or something as an Easter message, but it was just too much to do, and so I didn't get it done. But you know, it doesn't necessarily have to attach itself with Easter, but the video is going to be called God and Religion Suck, A Message of Hope. So if I did get it done yesterday, the only thing that would have changed it would have been an Easter message of hope. But again, the Easter part was kind of almost irrelevant. It just I had gotten started thinking about the whole resurrection and all that bullshit. But anyway, before I go further down that road, I do see that we have the Adamizer. It looks like his mic is on. Adamizer, you got your ears on, good buddy.
I'm right here, brother.
All right. Well, good to have you aboard in the front row, as always. How you doing tonight, my friend?
It's been a bit of a rough day, but I'm hoping the show will lift my spirits.
All right. Anything you care to share, or just one of those kick in the balls kind of day?
Well, I would share it, but it's one of those things where it's just stupid family shit, and at the end of the day, I don't want to bore the listeners. You know what I mean? I do on both accounts. Very familiar with the SFS, the stupid family shit. But Adamizer, we of course, have a lot to get to tonight, and I am wondering, where you'd like to start. And is it going to be with, opening day of Major League Baseball, or of course, the NCAA championship game? Your pick. Which one, would you kind of like to cover? Well, you might as well, because I think by now I am about as in tune with sports as I am in tune with the Catholic Church. So. Yes.
No, that was of course a trick question, but Adamizer, before you had officially joined us, I was just talking a little bit about, obviously it's the day after Easter and how I spent a little bit of my day yesterday. And before we get rolling into the show, I thought of this yesterday, and I thought, it really is interesting, is it? And, excuse me, I wonder if it's just coincidence that the two biggest celebrations, I guess, for lack of a better term, of the Christian religion, Christmas and Easter. Is it just coincidence that they are also the two only holidays where it's been necessary to create a completely fictitious character that breaks and enters our homes while we're asleep at night, only to, of course, leave presents and candy, especially for the children? Is this just a coincidence?
Well, I don't know if coincidence is the right word. See, the thing is, when it comes to holidays, Christians really love to steal from pagans, okay? In both cases, we're talking about were originally pagan holidays. And so what ends up happening is you have the pagan bent, which for some reason seems to always involve, as you say, people breaking into our homes and, giving us stuff or whatever. It's not, for some reason, that's a common theme amongst pagan holidays, and they just sort of got adapted to the Christian versions. It's, as with anything else Christian, it makes no sense.
Right. No, it's just, I actually, as I was thinking about it, I was like, wow, it's, knowing what we know about the Catholic Church, especially back then, it's like it's surprising that they allowed Santa with his sleigh or the oversized egg-laying bunny, and that they weren't considered sacrilege.
All I can picture is Dana Carvey doing the church lady and trying to answer the question of how does Santa fit in, and going, "Could it be Satan?"
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to get that clip loaded up, no doubt. But yeah, obviously, if this were not the case, if we didn't have Santa or the Easter Bunny, the day would obviously be all about the actual, biblical events themselves, right? And so that would require, I guess, a lot more attention and light shined on the, finger quotes now, two biggest faith days of the of the Catholic Church, the virgin birth and the resurrection, right?
Yep.
How does he know how do we know he rose to heaven?
Yeah.
Look, Sally, chocolate.
Exactly.
Here, go eat this and run along now.
Well, the thing that gets me too, especially around Christmas time, is if you ever look closely at the nativity scenes, holy shit, that is the whitest baby Jesus I ever did see. You know what I mean? they don't want, nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that he would have been of Middle Eastern descent and had olive skin. He is the whitest baby you ever did see in any of those nativity scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Surprised they don't dress him in American flag pajamas.
Oh, man, I tell you, as I told all the freaks out there, I actually, maybe it's a good thing you didn't hear this, but I spent a portion of the day yesterday watching Jesus of Nazareth, and it was like a newer version, right?
Yeah.
And it was the guy, I don't know his name. I know he's on Law and Order, but total honky, right? I mean, just complete, blue eyes, white hair, just
exactly.
Totally insane.
The bleach.
Anyway, all right. So, we've done enough, obviously, on religion, but, being the day after Easter, I thought we should at least recognize it out there. So, anyway, let's get rolling here. First of all, the front row. I got the front row live chat question of the night. It's already posted up in the chat room. And it is real simple. What's the most recent documentary that you've seen? So let's get some answers flowing on that. And other than I think that being said, we are going to be. I don't know, Adamizer, if you officially know this. So we did talk about it, of course, but we are kicking off now Media Month, right here in the front row. Guess we'll get to that in a minute. And obviously tonight's topic in Media Month here is going to be documentaries. But I do want to take a second here, just kind of remind all the freaks, inform new listeners, perhaps that here at the front row, we are in fact still in our fetus form right now. We make no claims to be some sort of well-oiled machine here, to which everyone replies, no shit. But, no, I just think it's important, kind of let people know that right now we're just trying to keep tweaking things and making the show better and all of that. And I bring this up to kind of highlight a couple of changes and tweaks that I think that Adamizer and I are settling on. And we both agree that the number one and probably two things that we want on this show going forward are the freaks calling in, right? Absolutely cannot get enough of that. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'll be happy and know the show is on its way when I'm taking a call from friggin' Latvia. I think I said that actually back in the old days, when it came out that Latvia passed the United States in world education rank. But I want to talk to a Latvian, and I want to know just what the hell is going on in Latvia. And the other thing, obviously, we want to get rolling here is in the front row are getting some guests on, interviews with guest callers, and we're working on some ways to get that started, maybe more on a local level. Probably not going to get Ted Cruz anytime in the immediate future, although I do have some questions for that scumbag. And, you heard me right. Scumbag. Don't let him fool you. But anyway, Adamizer and I are doing this show because, obviously, we feel like we also got shit to say, right? So it's all about finding that balance of taking your calls, hopefully getting guests, and actually dropping some front row truth on all y'all. And that said, I think we have in place now a good little format that is hopefully going to address all that. Kind of split the show in two. First half will be the Adamizer and I getting out what we want to get out. And I'll get back to that in a second. But the second hour will be ultimately belonging to you good freaks out there. Your calls, live chat messages, talking about those. Any and all guests were able to get in. So basically it was all a very long-winded way of saying, yes, we very much want your calls and want to talk with you, but we want to wait till the second hour. So, please don't call until then. Unless, of course, you just like or want to listen through your phone, then by all means knock yourself out. But, yes, getting back to the Adamizer and I and how we're going to be opining here on the Freak Show. As I said, I guess to introduce the new kind of change or tweak, like I said, it is Media Month here, and basically each month we're going to try to have a general broad topic, and then I said month, right? Each month we're going to have a generalized broad topic with each week, kind of, staying within that topic but focusing on the different areas, right? So you follow, I hope.
Yeah.
Germans, Brigatti's rolling. But so without further ado, let's kick off Media Month here, Adamizer. I know we're still wrestling with what to call this portion of the show. In the beginning, face-off, we're still figuring it out, not sure. But like I said, we are going to be focusing on documentaries. Adamizer, you want to kick us off here? Maybe we'll do a little back and forth. Like I said, I got trailers for some of these here. Some are longer than the others, so we'll have to see how much I let roll of the trailers or whatever, if time is looking like a thing. But why don't you kick us off, get going, point out the first one that you want to talk about, and we'll go from there.
Sure, sounds good to me. So I brought a couple of examples tonight, though. I might rattle off a little list later on of stuff that you want to take a look at. But the main examples I want to focus on, the first of which is a little movie called 1%, all right? And you can probably take a little bit of a guess at what this movie is about. It's about income inequality, not just here in America, but throughout the world. The thing is, what I really liked about this, what I found very interesting, was who made it and the perspective that was coming from. Because this was actually made by the heir to the Johnson & Johnson fortune. He's a young kid, about his 20s, and he decided to make a movie that explores, again, the inequality of wealth in the world, which is a very strange thing, you would think, to come from somebody who is on in the very small group of those who are benefiting heavily from the inequality of wealth in this world. But one of the really nice things about it is his family contacts basically gives him access to all kinds of people that you won't see in other films that are trying to make the same point. For example, one of the most interesting parts, for all of you out there who believe that Warren Buffett is some type of, saint because he talks openly about the inequality of wealth, I got news for you. The reason he does that is because he knows there's not a damn thing anybody's going to do about it. In reality, when people start taking a real hard look at it and start making a difference and start making movies, he starts disowning family members. His niece was in this movie, was interviewed by the filmmaker,
right, yeah.
And she just spoke from the heart, just said what she felt was true, and literally was disowned by Uncle Warren for it. So again, it's these games they like to play. Sure, it's fine for Warren Buffett to come out and say, oh yeah, my maid pays more of a tax rate than I do, and this is wrong, and blah blah blah. But he's doing nothing to stop it, and in fact, when people do take a step forward to stop it, even from his own family, he disowns them. So there is nobody on your side when it comes to the rich, when it comes to the super wealthy. They are playing games with you. Stop believing what they're telling you. Stop believing that that they have any interest in making things better for the rest of us. They don't. If they did, they would simply take a few million to live the rest of their lives on, and to leave some to their kids, and donate the rest to the starving children of the world. Until they start doing that, you really can't buy anything they're saying to you. But again, the movie is 1%. Very poignant, very excellent facts, and I think much better than the facts, because you can find those same facts in any movie on the same subject, is the interviews that you're going to find in here with the family friends of the Johnsons. It's also kind of interesting that the filmmaker talks about his father having made a similar film when he was around the same age, and the family practically disowning him for that, and his father, trying to, on the one hand, dissuade him from making the film, but on the other hand, I do genuinely believe that his father's interest was in not seeing his son go through what he went through. I think it had a lot less to do with, again, his father's like Warren Buffett. His father knows you can make all the movies you want, it's really not going to make that much of a difference. But at the same time, I think the father really cared about the son not going through the persecution through the family and the family friends that he went through when he did it when he was younger. So a very, very unusual perspective on the inequality of wealth in this movie, and I recommend it to everybody. Now, did you say, I think you checked it out, Kraft, did you say that it's available on YouTube?
That one is available on YouTube, yes.
Okay,
and,
that's right.
Yeah, so that is definitely free on YouTube. Here, let me, when we do this, Adamizer, I will, this is actually one of the quicker trailers, only about a minute. Why don't we roll that? That'll roll a quick 30-second promo, and then we'll be right back.
Sounds
so
good.
Here it is, the 1% trailer.
My great-grandfather started the Johnson & Johnson Pharmaceutical Company.
From the director of Born Rich.
We're part of a small number of American families that own most of the country's wealth.
Documentarian Jamie Johnson explores the gap between rich and poor.
There is no equality in life.
What you have is a level of concentration of wealth probably never seen before in our history.
We're going to have family dynasties.
A revealing look at the haves.
One day I'd like to go to the moon and look at the planet Earth and say, that's part of my portfolio.
And the have-nots.
The public will get what the public wants.
Capitalism is a moral system.
What happens when the rich get richer?
Money is the spoke in my grandfather's wheel of life.
Sometimes you have to spend money to make money.
It is called free enterprise.
And the poor get poorer.
I certainly wouldn't advocate socialism.
Don't talk that way. You are advocating socialism.
I would not rule out the possibility of armed rebellion in this country.
A Cinemax real-life exclusive, The 1%.
Very nice. Very nice.
What up, freaks? Hey, you're listening to Front Row at the Freak Show. Check us out at frontrowatthefreakshow.com, at Adamizer1, at The Freak Show, and of course, Front Row at the Freak Show on YouTube and Facebook. Peace!
At the foothills of forever, I trip, fall into frustration again.
And, yeah, we're back. No, it was, I think, you and I talked a little bit about it off air. I had kind of mixed feelings about it. I think at some point during the process, Mr. Johnson responded to that heat, right? And I don't know if he put all the teeth in it that maybe he otherwise would. I mean, hey, it's easy for me, obviously, to sit here and say that. But as I told one of the favorite parts of the film for me was when he was interviewing Milton Friedman.
Right.
And again, I was, wanted to jump through the screen and strangle Milton Friedman, but also, bitch slap Jamie Johnson and say, no, force the answer out of him because, as Milton goes on talking about how much and how well this system has treated the 99%, and especially the lower portion of the 99%, how well they have risen through basically trickle-down economics. is it was just maddening, I guess, to say.
Well, I think that's the other side to it, is you have to realize that if you're going to have this perspective, you're going to have somebody who's literally an insider in the 1% going around doing this.
Right.
That while you are going to get access to these people, and I think, what he did there was he tried to put it on display to say, this is really what this man thinks. But I don't think, I think he has to pull the punches, so to speak, because, he does have these family relationships to protect. He really doesn't want to find himself where his, in as deep a pit as his father was when he went and did the same thing. So again, I think it was more of a, instead of him, coming back to Milton Friedman and saying, well, what about this statistic or that statistic or this fact or that fact? It was simply a matter of, he presents those facts in other segments, and then he lets Milton just kind of ramble on so you can stand back in awe with your fucking jaw on the floor going, holy shit, this man still believes that he did the right thing. What a fucking zealot for the rich,
Right. No, it's true. But, well, let me ask you something. Have you seen the documentary Thrive?
It does not ring a bell. I've seen so many I may have, but I don't think so.
Right. Well, this one, it has, kind of surprisingly, it didn't take off. It's been watched, I think, viewed a lot, but it was put together by Procter Gamble, or one of the Gambles, okay?
Yeah.
Is his name actually Procter? I forget. I'm sorry, and I should know this, I guess, off the bat. But so obviously coming from the Gamble and Gamble family, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of runs along the same theme. It's very Zeitgeisty, I guess. But attacking the banking world, mainstream media. And I guess, they went on, him and his wife, to, I think it's Procter Gamble, set up a website, and they got these portals and, ways to help change things and, different avenues and things. So, like I said, just also coming from that perspective, I don't know if he had obviously the same heat coming down on him or whatnot, but, again, he then went on, he made the movie and then, and has followed through with it, and is really trying to get this Thrive movement going, much in the, a la Zeitgeist movement going. But I'll digress from there. So, I definitely recommend the watch of the 1%. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, and there's just one quick thing I wanted to throw out there too. When in the trailer, he was talking about the word socialism came up. I just want to say what fun I've had, not just this week, but throughout a long period of time, going after these folks on Twitter who are anti-socialists and are talking about how terrible socialism is and everything else. I was doing it just today. And you say to them, so those terrible libraries and firehouses and this other shit, and they really have been so stuffed full of Fox News bullshit that they just want to run away. They want to deny it. They want to act like, that's not socialism. Yeah. And you say to them, give me a definition of socialism that doesn't include using tax money to fund libraries and firehouses. And again, they'll run away with their tail between their legs. Socialism is at least a decent Band-Aid in the world of capitalism, and it's absolutely ridiculous to me the people who drive to work every day on public roads, and in fact the same people who are sitting there calling for more military spending are going to sit there out of the other side of their mouth and say, oh, no socialism, no taxes, blah, blah, blah. You can't have it both ways,
Right,
it's just fucking crazy to me. Anyway, that's all I wanted to add that in because of the reference to socialism in the trailer.
And I did, I do like following at Adamizer 1 is a good time. Let me tell you. And I wish, and I really wanted to. I wanted to reach out to a couple of those people that you are battling there, and I just said, call the show, please. I would love to get some of those people on air, and because that's what it's all about, so.
I would love to get some of the
street world things get broken down into 100 and whatever it is characters, and I'd like to get some full thoughts from any of those people. So anyone listening that follows that Adamizer 1, and especially anyone that doesn't agree with that Adamizer 1, in about a half an hour we'll be opening up the phone lines and hope that you indeed call in. So. Anyway, let's keep it rolling here.
Especially if you want, I just want to say, especially if you want to come talk to us about the legitimacy and morality of the Christian Bible, by all means, please call. Please call.
Yeah. Well, we know where you stay.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep rolling here on the documentaries. And before I get into the first one, I do want to point out a couple of websites that I think everyone should have bookmarked. The first is topdocumentaryfilms.com, and another is filmsforaction.com. I'm sure there are others, but they are great sources and sites that have literally hundreds and hundreds of free documentaries online, all categorized, making it easy to search in the topic of interest. But definitely good sources outside of YouTube or Netflix. Definitely, especially because of that categorized, they'll have economics, which you really can't do on YouTube, right? As a way to search, I want to check into something, political or whatever.
As long as we're doing plugs, too, I just wanted to throw out there, be sure to check out Cinema Libre Studios. That's Cinema Libre, Libre, okay? I'll be rattling off a list of some of my favorites from them, later on in the show. And I actually did a little PR work for them at one point, and they have just, I think one of the best collections of any studio in terms of the documentaries that they have either produced or more often than not purchased the rights to. They have a website. They have a store on the website. In fact, I believe that I don't see 1% on their store anymore, but the other documentary I'll be talking about is one of theirs as well. By all means, check them out. Cinema Libre.
Okay, good deal. And we'll put that. We'll put all that in the show notes. But also, and just to keep the plugs going, on frontrowatthefreakshow.com, I do have a documentary page. And it's in the expanding process and on the Crafty Do list. But for now, I have my top 10 on there, 10 anyway. It's like picking a favorite is like picking favorite band or album. Waylon Jennings, Honky Tonk Heroes. But anyway, goodest place to start as any on frontrowatthefreakshow.com. I suppose if you need a little push into maybe what to watch, and certainly that said, just also the general statement of what are you devoting your screen time to, right? Like today with Major League Baseball kicking off and the NCAA championships and all that, however much screen time you get a week, reduce it by an hour and a half, and instead of watching, I don't even know, Walking Dead or whatever, watch one of these great documentaries and, just change it up a little bit and, maybe give you something to think about in the process. But anyway, I could go, this is a topic, I love documentaries, Adamizer, and I could go on and on probably forever. I've watched a couple of recently that I could talk about, like Bot, about the whole vaccination and big pharma process, which I thought was fantastic. Or very recently, pretty much the last 3 days of last week, I consumed this 1987 documentary called The Secret Government by Bill Moyers. which from all I can tell was basically mainstream, right? I mean, first of all, 1987, and it must have aired on like PBS or something, but wow. It focuses basically on the Iran-Contra affair, but it's so much more. It's like, how did we get to the Iran-Contra affair, and really tracks it back all the way to, 1947, and when both all the Central Intelligence Agency and the NSA were signed into law, and but it really does a fantastic job, and shit, there I go, talking more about the ones I'm not going to talk about than the ones I have planned to talk about. But anyway, first documentary that I wanted to bring up, it is just absolutely one of my favorites. I consider it an absolute must-watch. It is called Psywar. That's Psywa, War. And I don't think I could say it better than how it's described on the YouTube channel Conspiracy Documentaries. And don't get too excited with that YouTube channel, because this is the only video that's on there. But so it really should be called Conspiracy Documentary. But anyway, as they put it in the show notes, this film explores the evolution of propaganda and public relations in the United States with an emphasis on the elitist theory of democracy and the relationship between war, propaganda, and class. Again, just an absolute must-watch. It lays the foundation for a lot of the shit that we're seeing today and have seen for the last 100 years. Basically starting with, who else? The Rockefellers and their need to control and manipulate information, especially that of their own secret, dirty scumbag ways. How they brought in Eddie Bernays, the godfather of modern propaganda, if you will, right up to how mainstream media is used today to control and move the population through media. So let's go with, 4.5 minutes is the trailer. I may or may not let this run the whole time, but let's kick it off. Have you seen Psywar, Adamizer?
I believe I did see that one, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, when did it come out again? Throw a question like that on me. I don't need specifics. Has it just come out, or did it come out like a couple years ago? Or
it's been a few years. Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, then I'm pretty sure I saw it, but it's been a while. I don't remember all the nuances of it.
Yeah. Let's roll the trailer again. The trailer's 4.5 minutes. I might cut it after 2. We'll see. But here it is, Psywar.
Here in the United States, we're often brought up and told we don't have propaganda, that we have a hard-charging investigative press, we have this educated, skeptical, even cynical citizenry, and that if there were powerful interests trying to manage and manipulate public opinion, they would be exposed.
That's where the word came from, for propagating the faith. And that's the way the word was used up until the early 20th century. And then what emerged, particularly with World War I, was the application of this propagating the faith to refer to international affairs, to refer to what a national government would do, a national security policy.
Equating super patriotism with militarism, military endeavor, military achievements, military struggles and victories, that's all supposedly a special manifestation of super patriotism.
The state flourishes in time of war. The state grows stronger in time of war. The state accumulates power. The military is enhanced. The forces of repression are enhanced. War is an opportunity for the government to grow in power.
The American dream is a story about how society works. The American dream says that if you work hard you will succeed.
Now, the bedrock of our economic success is the American dream. It's a dream shared in big cities and small towns across races, regions, and religions, that if you work hard, you can support a family.
And so he says we may start off at different positions. There are people who are rich and there are people who are poor, and they're born into different kind of contexts, but the playing field is level. That's the dream. That's the dream of, pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. The problem with that is actually at odds with how social mobility works. Social mobility actually is much more based upon class and upon the resources that you have available to you into which you're born. There are class structures that keep people mostly in their places. If you can control the stories, you don't need to have soldiers on the street corners to control them. You can control people in their own heads and their own imaginations.
The definition of polyarchy that we have in the social sciences is a system where the participation of masses of people is limited to voting among one or another representatives of the elite in periodic elections. And in between elections, the masses are now expected to keep quiet, to go back to life as usual, while the elite make the decisions and run the world until they can choose between one or another elite another 4 years later.
The last election, 2008, the advertising industry gives a prize every year for the best marketing campaign of the year. 2008, they gave it to the Obama campaign, who beat out commercial competitors. The idea is we market candidates the same way we market toothpaste or lifestyle drugs or automobiles. If a decision is made by a centralized authority, it's going to represent the interests of a particular group in power.
If you mean by democracy a system that accepts that the relative distribution of power and influence and wealth and income in the society is sacrosanct. If the social system we call and know as capitalism is inviolable, then you've just ruled out democracy.
And there you have it. Psywar, I looked it up while that was playing, and was put out in 2010. So, obviously some quotes from our POTUS, Barack Obama, kind of tipped it off a little bit that it was within the last 6 years or so. So, anyway, again, yeah, must watch. I do, it's just one I cannot recommend enough. So let's take another quick break here, and we'll be right back picking up our talk on documentaries. Back in a minute. Conspiracy?
Yeah, I mean, the fact is you've got these psychopaths, whether they're running the top businesses or whether they're running the country or both, that, they want more and more and more. That's all they can think about, and they'll step on anybody and send your kids off to die to get it. And that's the world we live in.
My mother was actually a black Irish Italian Muslim, lesbian hooker with a lisp.
Maybe.
What is so interesting about us in the first place?
This fucking soulless horse.
My question is to the Adamizer.
I'm glad you asked, Adamizer.
Then you really need to re-examine your objectivity on the subject, because you don't have any.
Screwed?
My ass is open. Wait, let me rephrase that.
Read that book, cover to cover. Read that fucking book.
I'm not sitting here suggesting we burn them all and completely rid the planet of them.
Absolutely. And if the God described in the Bible is real and is what is described in that Bible, he's not your fucking friend. He's a monster, and we should all get together and hunt him down and kill him.
Definitely. To me, at the very least, it's the root of all tyranny. Get your freak on. Front Row at the Freak Show on blogtalkradio.com/front row. All right.
Well, I told you how much I love that promo. Very well done.
I'm glad you like it, Adamizer, and yeah, it's fun, man. It's fun. I think like I said earlier, we are in our fetal stage here, but I like the direction that the show has taken, and having a lot of fun with it. It's great, man. It's great. So, what do you got next up for us in this world of documentaries for us, Adamizer?
Well, next one I'm taking is I would say it's a little bit of an obscure topic, but it ties in with everything that we talk about, I think, in a lot of ways. And the question I have for our listeners out there is, what do you know about Cuba? Or what do you think you know about Cuba? Because there's this documentary that...
Can I answer that with everything I know about Cuba I learned from Godfather 2?
Well, I would say that's a lot better than half of the country that would probably say everything I know about Cuba I learned from Fox News. So, now,
I know they were friendly to American business owners in the 50s.
yes, exactly, yes. But there is a lengthy and rather complex history, especially between Cuba and the United States. And there's a documentary out there which not only helps you to understand that, but actually involves all of the key players that were right up in the ass of this whole situation between Cuba and the United States. And it's called "Will the Real Terrorist Please Stand Up?" Now, the name, and I'm pretty sure the reason that they went with that name is so that you can, because one of the things they touch on is how the anti-Castro Cuban exile community here in America has bombed the living shit out of everything they can get their hands on. But the documentary itself really does a good job of chronicling what has happened here. And much like the 9/11 thing or anything else, what you've been told here in America doesn't really stack up to the facts.
No.
The facts are, we provoked Cuba every step of the way. Their reactions were actually a lot tamer than what the U.S. would do if the shoes were reversed. And this goes through a lot of that, and it shows all of the aggression coming from the United States and from the Cuban exile community and everything else towards a country that just wants to do its own thing. And really dispels a lot of the myths out there. I also recommend, if you get the chance, read the Cuban Constitution, one of the most eye-opening documents you'd ever read. You think that they don't have the same... Yeah, they don't. Most people believe they don't have the same constitutional freedoms that we have, and they have almost all of them and a whole lot more that I think we really should have, such as the right, to food for for those who need food, such as the right to education up to and including the doctorate level for free.
Are you suggesting with that statement that we have constitutional freedoms, Adamizer?
No, of course not. Of course not. I mean, the Constitution is there just to make people feel better. And all I'm saying is that those who believe that, those who are constitutionalists and who are so diehard about the Constitution would do well to read not just Cuba's, but the constitutions of other countries before you start going off and talking about how great America is. The other interesting fact that you'll find in this documentary is that they make a very hard-to-refute case for the direct involvement of former President George H.W. Bush, that's Bush Sr. for those of you who aren't into the middle initials, being a key player in the assassination of JFK.
I don't believe it. I do not believe it.
What? What?
George Bush, man. Are you bashing the man?
He was, well, you know, of course, that before he was president, he was
I was just horsing around with you, Adam.
Yeah, no, I know that. But no, of course, before he was president, he was pretty high up in the CIA.
He was chief.
Yes, but I believe that the days that the Kennedy days, he was not chief yet. He was.
That's right.
He was lieutenant, so to speak.
That's right.
But the case is made pretty strongly that he actually ran a crew of anti-Castro Cubans who were responsible for and who have taken responsibility for the JFK assassination. So another little tidbit you can find in there. But I just found that the interviews that you find in this movie and the facts, and again, be sure as always to check your facts. Anything that you see in a movie, anything that you see in media of any kind, go out and double check yourself. But the facts that are presented here are just astounding, and it really is an eye-opener, the same way as watching, the facts about 9/11 or anything else, to see what our government is really doing, and what's really happening in this world, as opposed to the mainstream media narrative that's being fed to everybody out there. So yeah, will the real terrorist please stand up? You got a trailer for that on me?
I sure do, and let me roll that right now. Sorry, I was sipping my cocktail. Here we go.
Nothing wrong with that.
We have made it clear to all nations, if you harbor terrorists, you are just as guilty as the terrorist. You're an enemy of the United States, and you will be held to account.
For 50 years, extremists living in the United States have carried out terrorist acts with relative impunity.
I found it very difficult to believe, not so much that people wouldn't do this, but that our government wouldn't do anything about it. I think that was very scary to me.
This is a spot where an act of international terrorism took place. Before 9/11, 2001, it was the most egregious act of state-sponsored terrorism ever to take place in our nation's capital.
2 weeks later, on October 6, 1976, an Allied group of terrorists bombed a civilian airline flying over Barbados. All 73 passengers and crew members died. These same groups continued to bomb, burn, and assassinate throughout the 1970s, 80s, and 90s, both within the United States and abroad.
If for 50 years you've been attacked constantly in all sorts of ways, of course you're going to, do whatever it takes to save yourself, to do whatever is best for you.
In the 1990s, Cuban intelligence officials infiltrated some of the violent Miami groups and later shared information they had gathered on terrorist activities in Miami with FBI agents. In 1998, instead of charging the terrorists, the FBI arrested the Cuban Five. This film treats the case of the Cuban Five. More than a decade after their arrests, these men remain in maximum security federal penitentiaries. Their story is part of half a century of terrorist violence, the leitmotif of U.S.-Cuba relations. Over the course of 50 hostile years, the Miami area became the second largest Cuban city next to Havana. The exiles who fled the communist revolution in Cuba fashioned a kind of autonomous anti-Castro republic inside the United States. High Cuban officials, family members of the 5 Cubans arrested, intelligence chiefs, and hotel bombers in prison make up the cast of Cuban characters.
To the U.S. government, those who commit terrorism against a country that the United States doesn't want to deal with and so forth, they are not terrorists, they're freedom fighters.
And there you have it. Will the real terrorists please stand up? And unfortunately, I'm going to ask you, obviously, where people can find it. I have not. Yeah, I have not seen it because It's not free.
Yes, I have
so
not found any place.
Folks where they can find, I think, was it that Cine Libre, did you say?
The Cinema Libre, yeah, no, the Cinema Libre does still carry the film, but it's not free. I have not found it for free anywhere, which is a real shame because, again, it is such an informative thing. I wish that somebody would bite the bullet and put it on YouTube or whatever else. However, if you go to iTunes, Amazon, any of those places, it is available both for sale and for rental.
Right.
And trust me, it's worth the money. The education that you'll receive from that on Cuba is just about the best that you're going to get out of anything on film. There's some other great documentaries out there, and some great films too. I mean, you can't knock some of the like the biopic Shea and things like that. But in reality, yeah, if you get the chance, it's worth the $4 or whatever it is to rent the thing through iTunes, through Amazon, wherever you can find it.
Yes, I think we checked. It was not, it used to be, but it's not on Netflix currently. So that's also a shame.
I'm wondering.
Obviously, if I, obviously had the discretionary dollars, I think it's a great way to support the industry itself, obviously, and the guys who bust their balls. I mean, I know what it's like to put together a 10-minute clip on, or like one of these promos that we do. My God, putting together a documentary. So it's like, if you got the money, even if you can watch it for free, buy the thing, and then you can give it to someone, right? And say, here, check this out. And chances are, if you give them a disc or something like that, they'll be more likely to actually check it out. So definitely want to promote supporting the people who make all these films, and we are very fortunate to have a lot of them for free.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. So, all right. So as I kind of mentioned to Adamizer offline here, we are completely sucking a big old bag of balls with our time here tonight. But excuse me, that's all right. That's all right. We are coming up close on caller hour, and we're just going to kind of roll with the flow here. I like how this is going. All these clips. It's definitely a lot easier on the old vocal cords. So why don't we do this? I got one more that I want to cover, and then we'll take a break at that point. Because this one actually doesn't need much. Let me just go into it. It's Zeitgeist, I'm not even sure if it's necessary to play the trailer or not, but I've obviously talked about the Zeitgeist documentaries, the Zeitgeist movement, and this is obviously the little documentary that could and started it all. And where I believe it is, if you are not a part of the hundreds of millions, literally, of viewers that have watched Zeitgeist, it's essentially required viewing. But I do like to more and more focus on the Zeitgeist movement and what has ultimately all unfolded and come out of this. Zeitgeist itself is a trilogy. There's Zeitgeist that was put out in 2007, I believe. The addendum was put out in 2008, and then Zeitgeist moving forward in 2011. And then I also talked about in 2012, Peter Joseph, the creator of Zeitgeist, did a series called Culture in Decline. And since then, it has just been a little host of lectures and essays on the resource-based economy and, of course, the inherent faults and obvious flaws of the current construct that we are in. And, again, if you haven't watched the initial documentary that started it all, just like Psywar, cannot recommend it enough. It focuses on three areas: religion, the economy, and media. And but as I've been saying, actually, during all our economy talks and talking about the resource-based economy, really what they have done ever since, to me, has been more impressive. The Zeitgeist movement has been much more impressive. And at this point now, I would just as soon dial up a lecture from Peter Joseph than I would, going back and watching any of the trilogy movies. So,
I want to give it the best possible plug I can here, and this is the truth. This is the movie, the original Zeitgeist movie, and of course the sequels as well. But this is what changed my life. Okay, this is what really started me down the path, asking questions and understanding things. That the conspiracy theorists weren't always that crazy, and that we were in real danger. That all kind of started for me with this movie, and I really can't say anything better about it than that. I mean, it is what started me waking up, and it's been a long, interesting road since then that I wouldn't change for anything. But again, if you have not seen this movie, especially if you are still on the fence, and you're a Dave or whatever else, this is probably the best film to start with. Go out there and watch this movie. Yeah, it really, I cannot say enough great things about it. It really, really opened my eyes and changed my whole world.
Yeah, and instead of I think I'm going to actually forego the clip, and what I'll do is take our break. But once you get into it, obviously, if you're like me, you just more and more, and my completely addictive personality. But you learn about Peter Joseph, and I mean, the guy really is a fantastic filmmaker, right? And one of the most interesting things about Zeitgeist is that, so Peter Joseph, he was a classically trained musician. I think it was in North Carolina that he grew up, one of the Carolinas. But anyway, he was in college for classical music and racking up tremendous debt. He, stayed about a year or two, and he's just like, hold on. To be able to pay back this debt as a classical musician is going to be very difficult. So he bailed on that to get the degree in classical music, and just to make ends meet, became a day trader, entered the ad game. It was kind of just it was moved to New York, was in the financial mess of it all when he was there, when 9/11 happened, all that. But he always kept in tune with his musical performance side. And Zeitgeist, the documentary, the original one, was actually a performance piece. And not many people know that. So what he did was he had it, he put together an actual, it's like a play. And it was, you could go see it. It was like, a small theater somewhere in New York, where he'd play stuff on a big screen in the background, and he was on percussions and doing the narration and stuff like that. So really interesting to know that that's how it got its roots, right? And then, so we decided to put it into a video, and it just went so viral, and it just absolutely caught him off guard. He's like, the copyright violations were through the roof. He had to go back and get in touch with everybody, saying, there's like tons of money flowing in now, and all this other stuff. So anyway, from what he's gone on to do since, obviously, without, obviously going to college or anything like that, any classical training in filmmaking, the guy is really quite an extraordinary filmmaker. So yeah, the whole story, the whole side of it, the Peter Joseph, the Zeitgeist movement, the trilogy. Obviously, you can spend see you next year kind of a thing catching up if you haven't gotten into any of it at all. Any final thoughts from you on that, Adamizer?
No, just to say it absolutely. I think there was, I don't know if it was an award or whatever else for their explanation of fractional reserve banking. And of course, I think one of the most concise yet poignant descriptions of 9/11. I mean, it's got everything that you could possibly ask for in an informative documentary. I can't possibly say a bad word about it. Like I say, it changed my life.
Yeah, that's great, and that was a kind of a remarkable statement. And I think it did with a lot of people. To be honest, obviously, I mean, how viral it went and everything else.
Well, I just remember sitting there after watching that movie with my wife and looking at her and going, so what the hell do we do now?
Mm-hmm.
And that is what kind of started me on the journey of coming up here and starting, a self-sustaining community and things like that is, we needed to come up with a plan for how to deal with what that information and what we had learned, and it did. It literally changed my life in ways that I can't even begin to describe.
It's awesome. That's so awesome. So, I think playing the trailer might be a little redundant. I think for any of the freaks listening right now. And so why don't we do this? Why don't we take a break, an official break, a comedy break, and then we'll come back. We're going to do a real quick version of Scuttlebutt tonight. And then we will, but right when we come back from the break, we'll start taking calls. Like I said, we're going to do a real quick Scuttlebutt, maybe just hit a story each that we want to point on. And then we'll just ride out the rest of the show with some more documentary talk and your calls. Adamizer, as I told you via email, I'm going to let you pick. I have this thing, right? It was crazy, man. So Thursday, Friday, I don't know when, but the guy's name, and I don't know if you remember anything about him or not, but his name popped into my head, and I immediately had to YouTube him, and of course, it's all on there, and but does the name Morton Downey Jr. do anything to you?
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
You remember that freak?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah, he was.
Shit.
Yeah. He was always proud of his loud and large mouth. Yes, I remember him.
Oh, absolute madness. And if you YouTube Morton Downey Jr., I mean. Oh, and his shows, it was basically like a political Jerry Springer show, right? With a louder, more ignorant host. Jerry Springer's a pretty soft-spoken guy actually on the show. It's his guests and everything else that are screaming around him. But Morton Downey Jr. was, he was leading the parade. So anyway, I put together a clip. It was a pretty good one with, it was actually Ron Paul on his show back in 1988, and they were talking about the war on drugs. And it was like 15 minutes long. I chopped it up. The audio quality is not great. So there's all that, okay? So I could play that, or I could play, in honor of it being opening day in baseball, I also, as a safety net, backup, have queued up George Carlin's Football versus Baseball. So I'm going to let you pick which one you would like to hear for our comedy break, the Morton Downey Jr. montage or George Carlin's Football versus Baseball.
You're killing me here. So it's a choice between latent nostalgia and the king of comedy. So
yes.
Gee, well, I'll tell you what. No disrespect to George, because I love George, and I think, again, everything he does is amazing.
Yes.
I would say, we do George all the time, and we're going to do George all the time. Let's give Morton a break. Let's cut him the break.
Okay, yeah, right. I was actually expecting the other, but let's roll with it. So, like I said, bear with this clip a little bit. It's I might have to even cut it short. So 7.5 minutes. I thought I had it down to 6, but so it's kind of a long clip. So I might have to cut it even more while we're going here. But 1988, the Morton Downey Jr. show with President hopeful and former Congressman Ron Paul.
We got a lot to thank God about as we celebrate the birthday of the greatest nation in the world. This country's faced many foes and many challenges, and we've always prevailed. Well, as we celebrate the 4th tonight, all right, there's a war going on in the streets of America, a war on drugs and the slime that smuggles them in and the lowlives that sell them to our kids. And now there's a group in this country that says, hey, let's legalize all the drugs, make them as American as apple pie, and how even Uncle Sam is probably a drug dealer. Join us.
Laws protect the CIA to run the illegal wars. That's what they're doing. All the crime in the world, the terrorist nations, they depend on the profits from drugs. $500 billion a year. There's more money, listen to this, there's more money spent on illegal drugs than on food in the world. If you care about people, let them spend the money on food, not on drugs. Drugs are worthless. They're totally worthless.
Are you telling me that it's a person's own choice to use drugs?
It's a personal choice.
Let me ask you something. Wait a time out. There's a difference between drugs and religion. Although drugs are religion to somebody. How do they make a choice when their mind is screwed up? And you mentioned the Constitution. How do they defend that Constitution if they've got bubbles?
Where do you find it from? The Constitution. Why didn't they have a drug law until 1914? Why? Tell me. Where do you why? Why didn't they have a drug law? Did you ever hear George Washington
to find out that
tell me where Thomas Jefferson had a drug law? Show me. Where were the drug laws during the 19th century?
There were also no speeding laws for cars. We didn't have the problem. Right. We didn't have the problem. We didn't have the problem.
You're talking about people's freedoms, right? You're talking about people's freedoms. Listen, the only thing you could be president of is Disneyland because you are in another world.
You don't make any sense.
Hey, Lisa, let me ask Joe, do you have any problem with revoking driver's licenses of drug users or searching a house given probable cause?
I have no problem with that. I have no problem with
taking
their liberty away because they've given it.
I
have no problem
shooting them
if they
when they don't have drugs because they made a mistake.
If they shoot at me, my friend,
because they made a mistake,
mine. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, they'll be in and check on you and your religion and call it a cult.
You come right ahead, my friend, and check on me.
I'll
stand a better check than you will, you stupid idiot, you. I can't wait. Joe, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing for this guy to be president and get into a debate with somebody from Russia? Can you hear this guy screaming?
At least I wouldn't be from George Bush and the CIA dealing in drugs. Right, Bo?
Unbelievable.
Right? Yeah, George Bush and the CIA dealing in drugs. It'll be a lot better debate.
Before we start to legalize drugs, Mort, I would like to
legalize freedom. We don't want to legalize drugs. We want to legalize freedom. Freedom of choice.
You want to give it away. Who do you want to surrender to, Peru?
Freedom, liberty.
Let's at least, before we give in to this idea of legalizing drugs,
which
is going to create
let
us fight a real war with real troops, make a real commitment, and get these phony hypocrites out of there.
50% of the people in prisons have to rob in order to get the money to buy the drugs.
Let me
to keep the CIA fighting their illegal war.
Let me go to loudmouth number 2. Mr. Ostrowski, would you? Go ahead, Colonel.
We keep going back to Bush and the CIA and the illegal war.
You bring it up,
It was the liberal Congress, Mr. President, that caused the existence.
Thank you. you.
It was a liberal Congress that caused Ollie North to have to go over on an Irish passport.
And disobey the Constitution is what he did.
And the fact that a nut like you can run.
Tell the Constitution up and fruit in the trap.
It's either right or it's wrong, and you're wrong.
The fact that a nut like you can run for president shows just how much freedom we have.
And destroyed our Constitution. Matter of fact, he had a plan to rewrite the Constitution.
Vote for it, but it won't be for Ron Paul.
Bo, let me ask you something. 1964, and you got this jabroni in the White House. Would you go over to Vietnam and serve for him?
No, there would be no Vietnam Wars if the libertarians are
There'd be no nation. There'd be no nation.
There'd be no money here at home.
We'll be back in a second. Get out of here. And I was.
All right, I gotta cut it off there.
Oh man, I missed that show. We had a lot of fun. The thing was,
dude.
He had what we want. He had what we need. He had all these people willing to, that would actually show up to his show just to argue with him. You know what I mean? I would love that.
Oh yeah, and not only that, I have to think. Oh, and this is really where I wish that I could. My only options with these clips are stopping and restarting. I can't filter within the clip or whatnot. But the whole crowd, like towards the end of the clip, just say no, just say no, just say. All of them just going. I'm like, he must have been handing out free beer and lines, on your way into the show.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And when you think of how big he was, right? I mean, because we're talking really, he was on channel 56 or 38, right? It's syndicated. This was mid to late 80s, right when cable is starting to break out, but it's still very much the 5 networks.
Yeah, back when we had the brown dials on top of our televisions.
That's right. Yes. But he was huge, man. I mean, and I'm surprised actually that in the age of all the throwback stuff and all that again, I mean, I don't even know why his name popped. It wasn't like I heard it somewhere else. It was like just Morton Downey Jr. just popped in my head, and I said, I remember that fucker. And wow, and Adamizer, you got to check out YouTube him, right? Great episode he has that I would have picked tonight, but it was 45 minutes long, and I'm like, I can't chop up a 45-minute show, but it's he has an atheist on there, and it's got better Morton Downey Jr. quotes, right? I mean, and you got to watch it too, because he just gets in people's faces. He's smoking his butt, blowing the smoke right in their face, right?
Oh yeah.
And oh. Man.
Well, I'll tell you though, I can answer your question as to why we haven't seen a throwback from him or anything like that. Man died 14 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but you think that is. I mean, he was. I want to say, he was so huge that you'd think there would be some
at least a biopic or something.
His stuff on Facebook or something, right?
Yeah, or some A&E biography.
Downey
or something.
Said it best, right? Or no one said it better since, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So, all right, let's do a little scuttlebutt. Hold, let me just take all right. Well, no, actually, let's open up the phone lines, Adamizer. Let's do that.
Yep.
And if you want to call in, we got about 40 minutes left here in the show. I'd love to hear from you at any single point from here on out. 646-668-8756. Of course, all the other ways to reach us at Adamizer1 at The Freak Show and Front Row at TheFreakShow.com. Front Row at The Freak Show, Facebook, YouTube, all those great things. We are coming to you live from blogtalkradio.com/front row. we are going to do a little abbreviated section of Scuttlebutt here. And since we are going to do an abbreviated version, Adamizer, are you ready to go? I am too.
If you'd like me to. I went first on the documentaries, though, so if you want it, it's all yours.
Okay. All right. Geez, I had so many great...
hard to pick
so
one.
many great stories. But, no, anyway, there was one that I just, with everything that, we had been talking about, excuse me, with the economy. And are you familiar with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts at all?
I'm familiar with the name. I don't remember the context I've heard it in, to be honest with you. My memory's been slipping lately. You think for a man my age, I'm really worried about what's going to happen fucking 10, 20 years from now.
Yeah. Not a problem. Well, Dr. Paul, he does the alt media tour. He's on a lot. Alex Jones gets him on a lot. USA Watchdog, SGT Report. I see him in a lot. He comes up in a lot of different places. But anyway, he was actually the Assistant Secretary of Treasury during Reagan. He had been the Wall Street Journal editor. Doctor. He's a doctorate in economics. I think they call him, he was one of the creators of Reaganomics. And a resume a mile long is ultimately what I'm trying to say. And talk about a guest that I would love to have on, because he's obviously a guy that shifted his thinking, right?
Yeah.
And but anyway, paulcraigroberts.org is his website. And I just happened to catch this article today, and really what I wanted is like 2 short paragraphs, almost basically sentences that I want to read from it. But he brings up how let me just read it. I am an admirer of Dar Jamal's reporting. In this article, Oceans in Crisis, Jamal tells us that we are losing the oceans. And he links to this article on truthout.org. Oceans in Crisis, one woman will cross the Pacific to raise awareness, where he reports on the human destruction of the oceans. And it is a real destruction with far-reaching consequences. The fact is indisputable. And Dr. Paul Craig Roberts goes on to say, from my perspective, the human destruction of the oceans is yet more evidence of the ruinous nature of private capitalism. In capitalism, there is no thought for the future of the planet and humanity, only for short-term profits and bonuses. Consequently, social costs are ignored. Capitalism can work if social or external costs can be included in the cost of production. However, the powerful corporations are able to block a socially functioning capitalism with their political campaign contributions.
Amen.
And what's that?
I said amen.
Yeah. Really, fan. Let me just. I'm going to bring up the article here. Just a fantastic article, and obviously, I recommend Dr. Paul Craig Roberts and his work overall. He does work tirelessly. He puts out a lot of posts a week, and again, he's also on a lot of different podcasts and gets interviewed a lot. He's done a lot of great work in documenting the Ukraine situation and the situation with Russia as a result. And I think he's in a very unique position where, with the titles that he's held and the access of information that he has. And So again, take it all for what it's worth. But I'll go on. I'll just read here one more little. Consequently, capitalists themselves make the capitalist system dysfunctional. We may have reached the point where the external costs of production are larger than the value of capitalist output. And while the powerful capitalists use the environment for themselves as a cost-free dumping ground, the accumulating costs threaten everyone's lives. It appears that nothing can be done because the oceans are, quote-unquote, common property. No one owns them, so no one can protect them and their contents. And, it's truth, man. And the oceans, when you read some of the stuff, and I'm sure I did not go on to read that article that he points to, but when you see that, the high percent of ocean life that is just dying off, and the makeup of the oceans, and it is absolutely deplorable, the condition that they're in. So, great article, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts. Adamizer, over to you.
All right, I'll have to check that one out. So picking one of the several articles I have here was actually not nearly as difficult on my end. I wanted to do this one last week. Of course, I was saving it for last, and we got sidetracked in the middle of Scuttlebutt with our conversation with Dave, which I very much enjoyed. No regrets on that at all. But yeah, this is a story I wanted to bring, and it's coming from what's becoming one of my new favorite websites. It's Americans Against the Tea Party. It's AATTP.org, a news site that highlights a lot of the ridiculousness going on with the current American right wing, especially the Tea Party, obviously. And this one in particular is entitled, Arizona State Senator Says She Thinks Church Attendance Should Be Mandatory. Okay?
I saw that.
Yeah. Now, luckily, we're talking about a state senator here, all right? We're not talking about somebody with power in, and she's in Arizona. So we're not talking about somebody with power in anywhere that matters. Of course, Arizona is doing its best to out-bigot Texas, but, they're and this is a step in the right direction for them if that's their goal,
Yes.
But yes, Arizona State Senator Sylvia Allen, back in 2009, declared categorically that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. Okay, I love these New Earth Christians, right? Dinosaurs were just tricks planted by the devil, and yeah, you just have to stop and think about how virtually every branch of science would have to be wrong in order for that to be true. Every piece of scientific evidence that we've ever gathered for just about anything has to be invalidated if we're going to believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old.
If I can just stop you right there for 1 second, it's amazing. Great line I always see from this guy, Graham Hancock, archaeologist and lots of other things, but he says, we just keep getting older every day, and because of the discoveries that we make, as far as when civilization started and all that, there's cases to be made that advanced civilizations, the way we thought about them starting, about 5,000 BC, back that up to 10, 15,000 BC. And,
I've seen some of that stuff. There's a guy who's got some interesting theories surrounding the Sphinx in Egypt and the idea that it had to have come from 10,000 BC. And one of the most compelling things that he points out is the rain weathering along the Sphinx, that the last time there would have been rain in that area of the world would have been about 10,000 BC. And also how the head is so disproportionate that it almost has to have been carved from something else. So, very, very interesting stuff if you look at that.
Right. They think that originally it was the dog or something, right? And someone came along. That's the case with a lot of they say that the pyramids were just kind of used by, the great, what do they call it? The Pharaoh reign of Egypt that we consider ancient Egypt, that all the pyramids were there long before those guys, and then they came along and just incorporated them.
Right. Now, I think honestly the better theory that I've heard on that is the idea that whatever society it was that was there in 10,000 BC basically left information that was then used not just to build the pyramids, but also for a lot of the other amazing things that Egyptians were able to do in terms of mapping the stars, etc. Another piece of that whole ancient Sphinx thing is the idea that if you step outside the door of the Great Pyramid, because the Sphinx sits down in a pit, you only see the head and shoulders, which if you actually were to look at the skies of 10,000 BC, that's exactly how Leo would have appeared, the constellation Leo in the skies. Absolutely fascinating stuff. But most interesting of all was that rain weathering. I don't think that there's too many ways to explain that,
Right.
But anyway, getting back to the story here. Nutcase down here in Arizona, they were having a debate on I believe it was concealed carry permits, and she starts droning on about how the morality of the United States has disintegrated and family values are gone and whatnot, and she's just talking about how great it would be to be back in the Wally and the Beeve days, and of course, citing what she sees as an erosion of religion in the country as the reason for what she considers a decadent and immoral society. She goes on to say, and this is a direct quote, "Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back to having a moral rebirth. But that would never be allowed, and we would not even be debating that. I'm going to vote yes," referring to the concealed carry permits bill. I mean, holy sheep shit. What the hell is wrong with these people? And you know what? I heard a very interesting take. I talk a lot about Professor Richard Wolff, his most recent episode of Economic Update. He had a guest on that I think really nailed it home as to what happened to that, up until the 70s or so, that whole family values thing, that traditional family where dad goes out and works, mom's, works at home taking care of the kids and everything else. And the only time, that you would really see women in the workforce was when there was some sort of emergency in the family that the woman had to go to work. The husband is injured or he leaves the family, something like that. And in fact, she noted that where back in I think it was the early 70s, 4% of women were out earning their husbands. Today it's 1 in 3. 1 in 3, 33.3%. And what she pointed out was, again, it's the fact that wages have not gone up. Real wages have not gone up since the 70s. So now instead of, the dad can go out and work and make the money for the family and the mom can stay at home, they both have to go out and work. And there is no safety net if there's an emergency. Meanwhile, the kid's being, raised by daycare and TV when he gets home, and is it really any wonder what's happened to the families? And while all the people want to sit, all the right-wingers want to sit there and blame everything from Social Security to whatever else they can figure, the reality is it falls on capitalism. Capitalism is doing what capitalism does, screwing the worker more and more, decade after decade, to the point where, again, the average husband can no longer go out and provide for his family. I mean, it used to be that was the American dream. That was the American promise, is that there was, if you were a white male, there was always a job out there that you could go and support your family with. And that just doesn't happen anymore. I mean, you've got, they talk about the rebound in the auto manufacturing industry. Meanwhile, they're hiring people on at $10 an hour to build these cars and to build the parts that go into these cars. You know what I mean? It used to be that was, that auto industry was a job that you could support a family with. That's just not the case anymore. I mean, you're lucky if you're in one of those unions that has made sure that at least you're still protected, that they're not going to take your rates down, your compensation down. But every single situation like that, the catch is that the new people they're hiring through the door, they're hiring at $10 an hour. You know, they're never going to be able to support a family, and they're never going to be able to have a family on that. Not without government subsidies and welfare. You know, it doesn't work. The math just doesn't work. So, you know, I find it amazing that she's sitting here, you know, blaming the lack of church for what capitalism has done to society. I think it's absolutely asinine that people are believing this simply because of their own bigotry and hatred towards those who don't attend church. You know, as if we're the bad people, which it amazes me, all of the things that I've been saying this a little bit on Twitter today and yesterday. You know, you count the Crusades, you count the witch trials, you count the Holocaust, all of these things that have been done in the name of Jesus, all right? And you're actually going to point at an atheist and say, oh, you're morally wrong? Fuck you. Fuck you. All right, that's all I got to say. I weigh moral decisions based on their actual morality, not on some fucking cheat book that tells you it's okay to keep slaves, to sell your daughter into slavery, to beat your kids, to fucking kill your kids if they happen to curse their parents. You know, that's morality to you? And that's the problem is, you know, if you've been raised on this shit, they have turned words around. Love becomes hate. Morality becomes, you know, immorality becomes morality. And suddenly you're talking about, I had somebody today telling me about all the acts of love that Christians only do acts of love. And I asked him, I said, where was the love in the Inquisition? Where was the love in the Crusades or the witch trials or the Holocaust? You know, these were all motivated by the idea that you have the Jesus God on your side. The fuck is wrong with you? You know, how are you going to say that's morality? I don't get it. I really don't. I think that people have been so brainwashed and just told that whatever's in this book is true, you know, just like they believe that whatever is on Fox News is true, that the reality of what these words actually mean, love and hate, morality and immorality, socialism and any of these other words, just go out the window. Absolutely out the window. And that is what is degrading the morality of our society, you know.
I do, man. And it's like, sorry, I'm adjusting my chair here. And to think that, you know, she holds one of the highest, I know you said, you know, she doesn't have much power, but I would argue with that statement a little bit. I mean, she holds one of the highest seats in the land politically, right? United States Senator.
No. She's a state senator. She's an Arizona state senator.
Okay. She's a senator.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That's why I said. That's why I said at least you know, that's the one saving grace from the story is that she's not in Washington making decisions for all of us. It's only the people in Arizona who have to deal with her bullshit.
Right, and for those that think that you know, or her attitude is not, you know, the next at the federal level, well, you know, we know what line you should be standing in, and but I do need to correct you though, Adamizer, on one area, because there is an area that, you know, has seen just tremendous growth over the last. You know what? Actually, let's come back to that. Let's take a quick break.
Let me just take one guess first. Are you going to say derivatives trading?
No. Yeah. Well, okay. There's two. No, all right. I'll let the cat out of the bag. It's actually a story I was gonna get to in Scuttlebutt, but I forgoed it. But is that a forgoed? No, being opening day in baseball, since 1976, when the average baseball player's salary was $50,000, this year, average Major League Baseball player's salary, average, is $4 million a year.
Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me. I mean, that's a great, you know, don't get me wrong, those guys work very hard, but is that really where we want to be putting the $4 million fucking jobs? You know? Holy shit. I mean, that's as bad as rewarding the derivatives traders, which, I just want to say reminds me that I really wish I had included in my documentaries. Did you watch Inside Job? The one with Matt Damon narrating?
Yes.
Yeah, what a great film that was. Great interviews, great everything. I highly recommend that to anybody who has any interest in what really happened in 2008 and what's going to happen in the future with this bullshit anarcho-capitalism they keep ramming down our throats.
Oh, absolutely. And, since we've kind of struck that chord here now, I think this is a perfect time. Adamizer, I am finally going to play your song.
Oh, I love this one. I love this one. This is an anthem for everybody out there who works for a fucking living.
I don't know if the freaks listening really know, music and Crafty and how seriously I take it, and because I really do. So me playing a Dropkick Murphy's tune is really something, And no, I kind of like them. It's not nothing that I would listen to on a regular basis, but like when you sent me this song, it's a great fucking tune. Great fucking tune. So let's just roll the tune. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up. Maybe touch on Inside Job, I got a couple other documentaries that I could mention. And once again, 646-668-8756. If you want to jump in here, the final 18 minutes that we got, or 15 minutes after the song, it'd be great to hear from you. But right now, per the Adamizer, and going out to him, Adamizer, I am dedicating this to you.
Oh,
okay. It is the Dropkick Murphys Workers Song. Enjoy, you freaks.
Yeah, this one's for the workers who burn night and day, by hand and by brain, to earn your pay, who for centuries on past for no more than your bread, have bled for your country.
freaks. Hey, you're listening to Front Row at the Freak Show. Check us out at frontrowatthefreakshow.com, at Adamizer1, at The Freak Show, and of course, Front Row at the Freak Show on YouTube and Facebook. Peace!
At the foothills of forever I trip, fall into frustration again.
We're the first ones to starve. We're the first ones to die. The first ones in line for that pie in the sky. And we're always the last when the cream is shared out. For the worker is working when the fat cat's about.
Talk about, you know, talk about a good song. Talk about a good communist anthem right there.
It's high energy, man, you know, and as I was saying, you know, I obviously, you know, I tend to go to the country and or the outlaw country, that is, and whatnot, but I do respect the hell out of that shit, and there's definite place for me, or place for it, with me, and so you know, it's stuff that I do like to bounce around every now and then, and you know, when I need a shake up and I need a kick in the ass, and you know, again, the lyrics, I mean, shit, I could just read them all. You know, I pulled them up while I was listening, and it's fucking great lyrics, man, you know, great lyrics. In the factories and mills and the shipyards and mines, we've often been told to keep up with the times, for our skills are not needed. They've streamlined the job with a slide rule and stopwatch. Our pride they have robbed. Ah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got to say, my favorite verse is the one where they talk about, and when the skies darken and the prospect is war, who's given a gun and pushed to the fore and expected to die for the land of his birth, that we've never owned one lousy handful of earth?
Yeah, fantastic, man, fantastic. And, you know, like, I love getting turned on to shit, you know, and obviously in this area, the Dropkick Murphys have always had a little bit more prevalence, I think, than they have in the rest of the country, maybe. But and I think some of their more commercially stuff has been, you know, pumped by, like, you know, the Red Sox or this and that kind of turned me off, like, oh, fuck, you know.
Yeah. Well, when they put, I think when they put Shipping Up to Boston in that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Mark Wahlberg and everybody else, what the hell was the name of that movie? The Departed. The Departed.
Yeah.
I think that was a big step in propelling them towards more national fame than local stuff, but yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of their stuff a lot of the time. I love Irish music, you know, they're great. Flogging Molly's great. The Pogues are great, you know. I like to, you know, again, I got a lot of Irish music in my playlist.
Nice. No, it's great shit, man, and it really is. I have to imagine that they're probably bigger in Europe than they are here in the States. You know, it seems like a band that would the Europeans would really attract to, you know. So I bet you they are pretty big over there. But anyway, great call, Adamizer, and you know, with that call, I might even let you make another sometime. We'll see, man. All right, so we got about 10 minutes left here. 646-668-8756. Been a weird night here, actually. You know, I don't know if it is a post resurrection of Christ hangover. You know, maybe maybe people partied a little hard tonight, but the chat room's been quiet and the phone line's been a little quiet. But we'd love to hear from you in these final ticks here. 646-668-8756. Please give us a call. And but absent any of that happening, I guess we can ride it out with a little bit more documentary talk. And I did have some myself listed as kind of honorable mentions. Let me just, if you don't mind, Adamizer, I'll bring this one up. And absolutely, it's one of the documentaries that can lead you down a path, and just a whole new area and approach almost to learning some of the things that certainly we opine here on in the front row. But it's called The Ultimate History Lesson: A Weekend with John Taylor Gatto. And it is interesting on so many levels, okay? John Taylor Gatto was a award-winning teacher in the New York public school system. And, soon into, I don't know exactly, how long he had been in the system, but he really noticed, a switch in the approach of education. And, maybe he had it all along. It's been a while, actually, since I've watched this documentary, and let me forewarn you, it is, I think, 8 hours long. Yeah, it's a long one.
somebody actually just gave me an 8-hour-long DVD of 9/11 stuff that I need to sit down and watch. I mean, I'm not sure in 8 hours what they're going to tell me that I haven't already seen in other documentaries, but, the dude was nice enough to make it up for me. I got to take a look at it. Sure,
no, absolutely. But that's interesting because the other one I had as honorable mention is 9/11, the New Pearl Harbor. I don't know if that's the one he gave you, but I think that one's only 3 or 4 hours. I don't think it hits the 6-hour mark, but that's one of my favorites for 9/11. But real quick on the Ultimate History Lesson, I mean, this guy, John Taylor Gatto, first of all, the interviewer is, oh, God, damn it, I'm going to bone on his name right now. But he's got an entire story himself and has since gone on, oh, my God, I'm going to bone this name. I got to look it up while we're talking here. But anyway, it's a weekend with John Taylor Gatto, and he breaks down in just unbelievable recall, bringing up just slews of reference points and everything else about how, essentially how critical thinking has been completely stripped from the education system here in America, and just really the entire history of how our current form of education in the United States has gotten to where it is, and how he ultimately ended up kind of, flipping off the public school system and saying, I'm going to do things my way, right? So, for instance, this story always clicks in my head, and again, he's like in the city, New York City, and, public school system, and so, a kid wanted to come in and do a report on this, and this is the type of guy, this is what he would do. He was like, all right, so for the next 2 weeks, I don't want to see you in school. I want you to go, to these places. I want you to look up this. I want you to talk to these, knowing that that's where you're getting the education, right? And obviously the education is in the learning itself. And, I mean, here's a public school teacher, when a kid wants to learn a subject, telling him, all right, what I don't want you to do is come into school for the next 2 weeks, all right? Get the note from the parents, whatever you need to do, all that. and then come back and tell me what you got. And so, and I see, obviously I'm looking at the clock and time's ticking down. I can't spend too much time talking about it, but, just, again, 8 hours can be pretty daunting. Pick out a half an hour a week, right? And I guess the only other thing I can say is, like, again, the interviewer himself, he started a website called tragedyandhope.com and talks all about the trivium learning method. And again, like I said, it's a path really to a whole new way of approaching subjects, and a lot of just open sourced information and learning. And Richard Grove, there he is, Richard Grove, who actually was a 9/11 whistleblower, was supposed to be in the buildings at Marsh McLennan, up on the 107th floor, exactly where the plane hit, but he got stuck in traffic and was not there, and then went on to learn about all the insider trading and behind-the-scenes shit that Marsh McLennan themselves were involved in. And again, he, like I said, he went on to become a 9/11 whistleblower, and his testimony and documentation about the insider trading and financial aspects of 9/11, which no one else really approaches, and certainly not with the attention to detail that he does, is just truly remarkable. So, again, I'll wrap it up here, but check it out, The Ultimate History Lesson, A Weekend with John Taylor Gatto by Richard Grove. Sorry for taking so much time.
That's all right. I just wanted to rattle off a few of my own recommendations here. I'm not going to go into in-depth on any of them. I'm just going to tell you I highly recommend them. One of which is, and I'm guessing you've probably seen this one too, Oliver Stone's Untold History of the United States. That whole series?
Yes. Yeah,
excellent series. I'm really starting to love everything coming out of Oliver Stone. Highly recommend that if you get the chance. Not sure where it's available. However, I have a whole list of things here from the Cinema Libre Studios. Again, not sure if you can find some of these on YouTube. If not, they're probably available for rentals on iTunes and Amazon. Check these following ones out. The best government money can buy. Electile dysfunction. Again, that's electile dysfunction with an L. The End of Poverty, ? Ethos, A Time for Change with Woody Harrelson was pretty good.
Great film.
Oliver Stone's little transition into learning a little bit more about the world, you'll see that in Looking for Fidel, another great informative documentary about Cuba.
Oh, geez, I haven't seen that one.
Oh, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The other two are Patriocracy and South of the Border, which is similar to Looking for Fidel, with an emphasis on Hugo Chavez instead of Fidel Castro. But yeah, if you get the chance, look.
Chavez story is
the beauty part on Looking for Fidel is the idea that he's Oliver Stone goes into it, with the same mindset that any American would go into if he's going to interview Castro and whatnot, and the way he comes out of it. You can really tell that his eyes were opened, and it's pretty fascinating to see all of the interviews involved and all of the stuff that he uncovers about the bullshit that's said about Cuba. Absolutely fascinating. Oh, I'm disconnected. Hold on, somebody's disconnected.